The EU's Justice Commissioner Didier Reynders, on a visit to Poland today, praised the new Polish government for its determination to restore what he calls the rule of law. At a joint conference at the Ministry of Justice, however, the EU Commissioner was asked about his position vis-à-vis the unlawful actions of Donald Tusk's government. At the moment, we're trying to see if there's a possibility to restore the rule of law. Of course, we're taking into account all possible decisions that can be taken by the new government as well. On the other hand, at the moment, we are simply analyzing the situation. The Minister of Justice and Attorney General Adam Bodnar conveyed that the functions he currently holds will be separated. This is to be another element of the so-called restoration of the rule of law in Poland. I'm very happy that we could talk about Poland's further path within the European Prosecutor's Office. On the issue of the unlawful actions of Donald Tusk's government ministers had not been addressed at all. The forcible seizure of the media on the basis of a resolution, a mere opinion of the same, does not seem to have raised any objections with the commissioner, who by virtue of the function entrusted to him deals with just such matters, those of the rule of law. I would like to know where, for the commissioner, is the limit of restoring the rule of law. How far can one go when trying to restore this rule of law? For us, we teach students acting under the rule of law is acting in accordance with the law and within the limits of the law. If someone crosses these boundaries, it is not the rule of law. Interestingly, in 2021, Didier Reynders addressed a letter to Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki in which he called on the head of government to withdraw the request he had made to the Constitutional Court. The issue at stake was a final ruling on the superiority of the Polish constitution over EU law. The court ruled in line with a series of previous rulings that the Polish constitution is a supreme law of the Republic of Poland. In addition, it was not only in Poland that such verdicts had previously been made. The same was ruled by France, Spain, Italy, the Czech Republic, Romania, Denmark. So we've really had a lot of these cases over the years. Publicist Jakub Maciejewski points out that the commissioner's lack of reaction is due to the convergence of views between the Brussels elite and the new government in Poland. The European Union considers the left liberal order to be binding, the only correct order. That's why it doesn't react to violations of the law by people of such proclivities. Bodnar was even delighted by the praise he's received for restoring the rule of law. It certainly should not be his job to rejoice in praise from abroad. Quite the contrary, really. The Justice Minister himself admitted that he could not find a legal basis to justify the forcible takeover of the media. We're looking for some legal basis to achieve this. Interestingly, in an opinion for the Constitutional Court, one can find the following statements authored by Minister Bodnar himself. The dissolution of these companies would lead to a state in which public broadcasting is no longer formed by any company, which would be a state of affairs contrary to the literal wording of the law. In other words, it should be recognized that the liquidation of public broadcasting units requires an amendment to the law. Mr. Bodnar is looking to find a legal basis, but this is a measure of the downfall of this man. He's looking for some basis, and he'll probably find one, maybe somewhere on a TVN program. The opinions of so-called experts are becoming the basis or sources of lawmaking these days. The Constitutional Court, in a ruling announced Thursday, ruled that the actions and regulations cited by Culture and National Heritage Minister Bartłomiej Sienkiewicz are not in compliance with the Constitution. As mentioned in the previous report, the EU Commissioner came to the aid of the Justice Minister today. As he said, he's observing and cheering on the actions being made to restore the rule of law in Poland, as these are supposed to bring us closer to European values. It is these actions by Adam Bodnar, however, that are considered unlawful by many Polish judges and prosecutors. At this issue of the rule of law, I take a closer look today, says Edyta Hodyńska.
Dzisiaj sprawdzam.
Subsequent moves in the judiciary are bombarded with objections from lawyers. The College of the Court of Appeals in Warsaw gave a negative opinion of Adam Bodnar's motion to dismiss Judge Piotr Schab, and his resignation from the post of director of the National School of the Judiciary and Prosecutor's Office was announced by Judge Kamil Zaradkiewicz. However, Adam Bodnar assures that he is fighting to restore the rule of law in Poland. Today, when he spoke with the EU Commissioner, he preferred to keep quiet about domestic issues, at least before the media. I wouldn't like to bother the Commissioner with our own everyday problems. What we're observing today is some kind of blackout of the rule of law. We heard before, for years, about how this rule was infringed upon, and now it's said that this rule is being restored. I have the personal feeling that this is a complete departure from it. Well, this is why the Law and Justice Party has filed a motion for a vote of no confidence in Adam Bodnar as Minister of Justice and Attorney General. We feel that it is our responsibility to present all these examples of the breaking of the law by the Minister of Justice. Adam Bodnar, when he was the Ombudsman for Civil Rights, is becoming a grotesque caricature being used by Donald Tusk to carry out forceful solutions which are against the law. The Attorney General is in an open dispute with the National Prosecutor's Office.
Otrzymałem od pana prokuratora generalnego polecenie udania się na zaległe.
And well, I wrote back to the prosecutor's office that the person who is authorized to approve my leave is the national prosecutor. And this is because the prosecutors did not agree to the creation of the non-existent position of a PO national prosecutor. I humbly inform you, Mr. Minister, with all due respect, but I inform you that your decision is illegal. There's no agreement in legal circles to dismiss the mentioned court judges from both Warsaw as well as from Poznań. We had a situation before where there was an attempt to cut short the terms of the chairwoman of the Supreme Court, but of course this was unsuccessful. That's why the current ombudsman has verified the conditions under which Mariusz Kamiński and Maciej Wąsik are currently being held in prison. He had reservations about the transitional cells in the Grochów Detention Center, where Kamiński and Maciej Wąsik were initially being held. These require urgent general renovation and are frighteningly cold. And especially this attitude being shown towards these political prisoners is another example of how everything that Adam Bodnar has achieved is now being denied. Adam Bodnar has also been alerted to the situation by the wives of the imprisoned ministers. They wrote a letter in which they pointed out that if the prosecution continues to be protracted, the prisoners who are now on hunger strike may not live to see their release. And then the one responsible for their deaths will be the former ombudsman. And the fact that previously you were so absolutely sensitive to any attempt to any legal changes in Poland, and you were constantly speaking about violations of the principles of the rule of law. But now, at the moment when the law is being violated in a very pronounced way, when the Constitution is being violated, you fail to react in any way at all. According to the EU Justice Commissioner, and now, at this time, everything is in order. We see that this government is fully committed to restoring the rule of law in Poland. The Commission is fully engaged in providing all possible support to the Polish government. Mr. Commissioner, this is a photograph of Warsaw, beautiful, rebuilt, and also, among other things, thanks to European funds. Edyta Hodyńska, Republika Television.
Walka składa się z dwóch etapów. Pierwszy to zniszczenie zorganizowanych struktur bojowych Hamasu, potem następuje etap oczyszczenia terytorium z bojowników. Całkowite zwycięstwo wymaga wyeliminowania przywódców terrorystów oraz zniszczenia militarnego i rządowego potencjału Hamasu. Całkowite zwycięstwo wymaga powrotu naszych zakładników do domu. Całkowite zwycięstwo wymaga demilitaryzacji Gazy pod pełną kontrolą Izraela i kontrolą wszystkiego, co wjeżdża i wyjeżdża z Gazy. Teraz mówię prosto i szczerze. Zwycięstwo zajmie jeszcze wiele miesięcy, ale jesteśmy zdeterminowani, aby je osiągnąć.
Biały Dom jest coraz bardziej sfrustrowany faktem, że premier Izraela nie bierze pod uwagę sugestii prezydenta Bidena zakończenia wojny z Hamasem. Nie ma sposobu, aby rozwiązać długoterminowe wyzwania Izraela w zakresie bezpieczeństwa bez ustanowienia państwa palestyńskiego, twierdzi rzecznik Departamentu Stanu USA Matthew Miller.
Wierzymy, że wszystkie konflikty w pewnym momencie się zakończą i że musi istnieć polityczna ścieżka prowadząca do ustanowienia państwa palestyńskiego. To jedyny sposób, nie tylko na uzasadnione nadzieje, marzenia, aspiracje narodu palestyńskiego, ale jest to też jedyny sposób na zapewnienie trwałego bezpieczeństwa narodowi izraelskiemu.
Well, there's been a lot of talk coming out of various NATO countries with alarmist messages concerning a possible hot war with Russia, apparently coming as soon as 2025. At a press conference today with European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen and Sweden's Prime Minister Ulf Kristersson, Finland's Prime Minister Petteri Orpo took the opportunity to ease his people's fears. He stated that his country, Finland, does not see any immediate military threat from Russia.
We in Finland sleep peacefully at night because we are well prepared. However, all EU and NATO member states will also need to prepare themselves from any possible scenarios.
Meanwhile, the war in Ukraine has also been a hot topic among the global elites at the World Economic Forum in Davos. The Kremlin, however, back on Monday, has said that talks in Davos on Ukraine's peace proposals would achieve nothing, as Russia was not participating in the discussions. This is simply talking for the sake of talking, a Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said when asked about the discussions on Ukraine at Davos. Delegates arrived at the snowy venue of the World Economic Forum in Davos today, January 19th, for the final day of the conference. This was the forum's 54th edition at the Swiss ski resort. WEF President Borge Brende highlighted the importance of global cooperation in his closing remarks tonight.
There's no longer such a thing as a country, company, or community insulated from global shocks. And when it comes to leveraging opportunities, it is not possible to do so alone. Yet, we know the foundation of cooperation, trust, has been eroding in recent years, which is why this week's meeting on rebuilding trust has been so important.
Now, over the 5 days of meetings and panel sessions, the wars in Ukraine and Israel, the climate crisis, and AI topped the agenda. The theme this year, of course, was rebuilding trust. Now, considering the growing number of people who see what WEF-style public-private partnership is doing to small and mid-sized businesses around the globe, and the protests growing among farmers around Europe, it'll be interesting to see what sort of solutions they may find to rebuild this trust. Many panelists seem to be very concentrated on monitoring social media, while major political figures, including Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, United States Secretary of State Anthony Blinken, Chinese Premier Li Jiang, and Israeli President Isaac Herzog, made appearances throughout the week. And a challenging global economic picture with shifting interest rate policies and rising debt also confronted the central bankers, financiers, and business leaders who were also attending.